At this time, I'd like to call the regular meeting of the New Ulm City Council for August 19, 2014, 5 p.m. to order. First item on the agenda is your consent agenda items. What's your wishes?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to pull out what's indicated as 1F, which is the CVB 2014-2015 budget for separate discussion.
It's really 1E.
Oh, yeah, I know, I know.
It's either or.
It's either or,
Depends on where you look.
right.
So, okay.
With that, Mr. Chair, I'll offer a motion to approve 1A through 1D.
I'll offer a second for that.
We got a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items and discuss item E or F, whichever you want. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay, item E. Was that?
Well, I believe we have some representatives from the chamber here, and I'd ask that they come to the podium so that the council can ask some questions.
Maybe just give us a brief overview of the budget.
Oh, that would be nice.
That
That
would-
would be nice. All right.
Thank you for the opportunity to come and bring the 2014-2015 budget before you. President Schmidt, City Council, and City staff, for almost 30 years, the City of New Ulm has been in a legal agreement with the Chamber of Commerce to conduct and operate a division of the Chamber called the Convention and Visitor Bureau. And for this purpose, the city, as you know, has imposed a lodging tax of 3% that is collected by the city and remit to the Chamber for the Bureau. These dollars are kept in CVB designated accounts at the Chamber. CVB, Convention and Visitor Bureau, I won't say that again, I'll just use the acronym, which we all love, those, is a committee made up of volunteers from the community that represent entities interested in promoting the community as a visitor and convention destination. The volunteers come from lodging entities, restaurants, festivals, and attractions, and they're represented on the committee of 10 people, and this committee does have term limits. Day-to-day operations of the CVB are managed by the Chamber. We provide staffing, financial services, and manage a visitor center for the purpose of promoting New Ulm as a visitor and convention destination. Today, we are here to present the 2014 budget for the CVB division of the Chamber and fulfill item number 4 in the legal agreement between the city and the Chamber. Just to give you a little bit of insight on the process, the CVB has a finance committee made up of 3 members. They look at previous year's budgets, they look at trends in the lodging tax, and they picked an amount for the 2014-2015 year of income to be $100,800 for income. This comes from the lodging tax. This is a $3,400 increase from last year's budget. We're very comfortable with this number because the last 2 years, the lodging tax has been over the budgeted amount of income. So we feel it's conservative, but also very reasonable. So you'll find some other, do you want me to go line by line? Do you want me to go sort of fixed costs? Give
Just
me
a
a little
briefing.
guide. Just a briefing. All right, we all have different interpretations of what that means. So if it gets a little too long, you let me know, okay?
Okay.
I'll cough.
Okay, good deal. Well, if you have the budget in front of you, obviously there's some expenses that are very expected. Telephone, postage, FedEx. We do get calls and emails from tons of people requesting the visitor guide. We mail them one, and that's where that postage comes from, as every office does. Whoever said we were going to be totally paperless was wrong, because we do have copy charges. We also have some dues and memberships. We are members in the Minnesota CVB Association, the National Tourism Association, Scenic Byways, things like that. We are members of those organizations. They help us, give us information on best practices, keep us in the loop on various things, so we feel that those are very valuable memberships. Every office needs supplies, and so those are covered. Operation fees, according to the bylaws that have been approved by the city, 25% of the lodging tax that goes to the Convention and Visitor Bureau is returned to the Chamber for operating expenses. That covers some of staffing expenses, covers some of, you think we own the building that the visitor center is in, those sorts of expenses. That money is used to assist in taking care of some of those expenses. We also go to some conferences. Again, investing in people is a pretty big deal, and I think by providing those opportunities, we are opening up ourselves to the best information. We don't put any money for the planning meeting. Miscellaneous, staff development is kind of described there. Insurance is the directors and officers insurance. We put money in for travel shows, FAM tours. That's not really described, but that is, Terry Sweeney has a very excellent relationship with the Minnesota Tourism Office. And when there is someone in town or someone coming to our region that should come to New Ulm, like let's say it's a travel writer on craft beer or something like that, that's someone we want to get to our community, and we want them to put a positive spin on everything that we have here. So we have some funds in order to make that experience positive. We also have some money set aside for maintenance for the New Ulm float, which is used at various locations throughout the summer to promote New Ulm as a destination. We've talked about the banners before here, that these are not the banners in downtown, these are the ones on Broadway, and the money is put into a reserve fund to build up, so when those need to be replaced, the money is there. They fall under an appropriate use of lodging tax money because they promote the attractions that we have in town. They are not the same ones as that are downtown. Marketing campaign, there's an assistance program in 6420, which is really considered event support. And so we have some money set aside to do that. 6430 is marketing support, and we have watched the last couple of years the CVB really purchase outside marketing support, and felt that between the chamber and the CVB that we can help to meet that need by hiring a marketing person at the chamber to provide some of that service to the CVB. So knowing that CVB is the biggest beneficiary of that move, and also that there will be an increased cost because we're actually looking for a different skill set, we asked them to put some skin in the game, and they came in with additional support for that position. 6435 is marketing campaign. 6440 is brochures. I just got a thing today that said brochures are extremely valuable when people are looking at leisure travel, so we will continue to move on those. We have a walking tour brochure, that sort of thing. Advertising is $25,000. This is paid advertising. We've taken out ads in various publications that meet our demographics. Convention bids and gratuities. This is again to assist in New Ulm being a convention destination. What comes out of here could also be if someone was hosting a convention here and wanted a little support to, say, make the event memorable, they could ask, could the Concord Singers come and be a part of our event? And we would want to make that a positive event for the people. 6570 is the New Ulm Retail Development Corporation. This organization is in a little bit of a flux, so that amount is in there because we kind of have a plan of action of what's going to happen there, but nothing has come about fully yet. So again, that money is set aside for that. Should that not be needed, then that would just go probably into the advertising line. And then website maintenance and search engine optimization. I'll stand for other further questions.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Just a brief follow-up on a few things that you've said. You said that in past several years, the income has exceeded the budgeted income. And can you just explain where the excess goes and for us?
It could go to different things. In the past, it's gone to additional advertising. If there's money, it could also go to a CD to pay back reserves. There are places that it can go.
Okay, and can you tell us right offhand what the reserves are right now, not counting the sinking fund for the banners?
I don't. Terry Sweeney tells me about 40,000.
Okay, so all right.
And we like to keep about a half of a year's lodging tax in there, just as security.
Okay. Now, the bylaws and the legal agreements have probably been in place for about 30 years. Can you tell me if the operation fees have always been 25% to the chamber?
They have not. They have gone up. I can't remember the last time they went up, but it's been at 25% for quite a few years.
Okay.
And there is a schedule in the bylaws for that.
Okay. Thank you. And then my third question, just based on your comments, just so that it's clear, when you talked about the new marketing position, and you said you've been purchasing outside support, you mean consultants. You mean the consultants that you
Yeah, it's been an advertising agency. It's been a social media person, a writer. those
Okay, so
sorts
it's been several different things over time. Yeah, okay. And then, now, with regard to the $5,000 for NERDAC, you said that you're working on a plan of action. I assume that the council will be
Yes.
kept up to date on, as that plan of action comes. And then, just a few questions that I had before you were speaking. Now, I am looking back at the lodging tax. And I know that a lot of the national chains believe that their room rates are proprietary information, you know, and it might be somewhat difficult to determine, you know, what amount of an increase over the years has come from higher hotel motel rates and what has come from increased visits by tourists. You know, in other words, that's a measure of your success, is the increased use and of the hotels and that sort of thing. Do you have any information about any feeling about whether or not visiting New Ulm has gone up or stayed the same, or?
I think we wish that we would have those numbers, but we do not. We have tried to get information from our lodging people on the rates, and you're right, the big chains, you know, have a hard time giving that up. Obviously, with the increase of lodging tax, it's going to be either from the rates going up or more people coming.
Right.
So, because we aren't able to get vacancy rates and things like that, we really don't know. But we are seeing a consistent trend of the total amount of lodging tax going up.
Okay.
And just for, I know on item 1A, our lodging tax permit actually went down if you look at last month, but it's because of the Holiday Inn's major remodeling. So once that's completed now in the next month or two, we should see that reverse, because it has been a steady trend up.
Okay.
Any more questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Name and address for the record, please.
Shannon McKeith. I own Bingham Hall Bed and Breakfast. Part of the rise is a lot of the construction that's been happening for the last 3 years has contributed to that
Yep.
increase. I just want to make a statement. I must voice my concern that too much money is being shifted over to the Chamber's control, leaving less and less money to be used for marketing the way it is intended to be used. Administration and overhead costs for the CVB is over 50% already, which is exceptionally high. The CVB manager's position is being eliminated. In addition, an additional $15,000 is being given over to the Chamber to hire a chamber marketing director. When looking at the marketing director's job description, there is no mention of the CVB. At the very least, this job should be retitled to the CVB manager marketing director and should have its job description created by the CVB. This position should not be answering to the Chamber, but instead the CVB committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could
Yeah.
we have Ms. Shanneman? I did pull that, marketing specialist. Can you just address the specific concern about the CVB or reporting to the CVB, or is my question clear?
I'll try and answer it, and then
Okay.
you tell me. How about that?
Yeah, okay.
The marketing specialist position that is currently being advertised is a chamber employee. Chamber employs the people that support the CVB. The CVB does not have employees. It is a committee division of the chamber. So that's one clarification I would make. We are confident that we can provide marketing support to the CVB within the chamber, and we think that that's a benefit to them. Like I said before, the CVB has set precedent that they are willing to pay for marketing support services. And we have had some experience where we think that there are some things, for example, social media, that we can work with and handle internally at the chamber and provide that service to CVB. Does that help?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just a quick comment too, that I sit on the CVB, or have been on there for the past 6 years. My term expired now in this month, so I know our famous mayor is taking over, has appointed himself, and will be taking over that role. And in the last several years, I've sat as treasurer on this board as well, and we've worked pretty hard. The 10 people have agreed to the budget. They understand the process, the development of where we went with the different projects. We're on board with supporting this move to the chamber with a NERDAC position, so I'll support and approve the
Is that a
this
motion?
RBA as well.
Is that a
This
motion?
motion as well. That's a motion.
I'll second it.
We got a motion and a second to approve the 2014-15 budget, Convention Visitors Bureau. Any more discussion? Seeing none? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 2A, consider options regarding the City Hall parking lot sign. Mr. Grummett?
Mr. Chairman and city council members, the lengthy process that we had gone through to obtain total ownership of the City Hall parking lot sign has now concluded. The process was quite long. We did have to wait a little bit longer at the very end due to a error in the legal document itself. And now that that's been resolved, the city has been determined to be the owner of the, what I'll call the defunct sign, because it's not working and it's old, very old technology. But it does have a tower base that occupies approximately 1 to 2 spaces, in the parking lot itself. We had a couple of years ago, talked about refurbishing that facility with the chamber. We had talked about getting estimates, and we had some estimates of roughly $50,000 to preliminary estimates to upgrade the facility. That didn't go anywhere. We then had been contacted by a local business that had stated that they'd be interested in taking the project on. And that's when I brought it to the city council and mentioned that somebody had shown an interest. And but we still have the ownership issue to deal with. And that's when the city attorney was requested to proceed and get a determination through the courts that the property, the sign itself, was owned by the city. Now that that process has occurred and that determination has been met, we're kind of picking up from where we were before. The earlier issue sheet that I had put before the city council was, we had options. We could remove the sign and return it back to parking. We could own the sign ourselves and have staff do the updates, whether they're community, business, activities within the organization itself, many of our recreation facilities and messages. Or we could lease that tower to another entity, which in turn would invest the money in creating a workable sign with today's technology. And so that basically are the three options that I have before you. I did do some checking, like in Mankato. The city of Mankato leases 2 of their sign locations specifically to a sign company. And the sign company does all the messages and also does all the community events that the city forwards on to that sign company. So, there's lots of opportunity. I think there's, we know there's one business that would like to operate this sign, but like many things that we do as a governmental public body, there may be other people that are interested too. I don't know. I did hear, probably in the last 6 months that another business had shown an interest, but I don't know. That was just through the grapevine, and it's possible that they're not going to show an interest if we were to like go out for RFPs and say, what would you do and how much space would you allow for the public side versus the private side of the sign? Because I think all along here we've maintained that the community messages should be still a part of being displayed, whether it's city messages or Chamber of Commerce messages. Maybe it's in the 10% of the time, maybe it's 20%. I don't know. That's an item the city council can determine how much they would prefer to allow for the community messages. So at the present time, I can report to you, we own the sign. There's three options that I've identified here, and it's up to the city council to decide what they want to do with their property. Do you want to have the sign removed? Do you want to update it by municipal funds? Or do you want to lease the tower out and the space out to a business that would then invest their own money into updating the sign? But still keep the string that we have to have a certain amount of public messages allowed.
The few people with whom I have talked have referenced option 3, that they feel that, and I guess I concur with them, to lease it to a private entity with a certain specific amount of time that would be allotted to community use. And, at least as I'm sitting here this late afternoon, that begins number one choice.
Mr. Chair, I'll take a stab at it too. I certainly would not want to see that sign turned into a public parking spot. I think it's terrible that we've sat for 4 years with a blank sign. It doesn't make our town look good. Looks like we're not keeping up with the pace. I've talked to the community agency that has been interested in this, and they actually talked about more like 40 or more % of the time would be for community use. So I certainly would like to see us go on option number 3 as well. I guess I'd have a question for our counselor if that is something that we would have to get official RFPs, or can we do a letter? Can simply agency submit a letter of intent? Can you give us some advice on how we would proceed if we were to go that way?
Yeah, it depends on how formal you want the presentation to be. If you were to issue a request for proposal, you would identify a number of issues that you would want a proposer to respond to as part of their proposal, and that may be important to you to highlight what those issues are. How long a term are they looking at? What kind of revisions to the plan or to the structure would they be making? What kind of allocation for public purposes would they be proposing? Things like that. Or the other is just to do sort of a free form, throw it open to the public and say, you got a proposal, bring it to us, and we'll look at them. I don't think you have a very systematic way of reviewing, comparing, analyzing, and deciding unless you have some set of criteria.
And we let them choose the color of the messages.
Right.
We don't make
Mr.
too
President,
restrictive.
I agree with both counselors. I think during the last, most recent budget crunch, I think as a council, we sort of tried to focus more on, the basic services that a city provides. And while, perhaps at the time that we put this sign up and there was a reason to do that, I think as we sit here today, I don't think the city should get back in the business of operating a sign. So I too am willing to go along with option 3.
I guess it looks pretty unanimous with option 3 because that's where I was leaning also. The only problem I have with it is I don't think we should be dictating if we lease it to a large amount of community use. I think we need to keep it on the lower side maybe 10, 20%, other than the 20 to 30% that
Mm-hmm.
states here, because if somebody's actually leasing it, it is their business, and we are making revenue off of it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So they should be able to run it the way they see fit.
I have a tendency to agree, and getting back to, my point about the core business, I would just as soon, sort of throw it open to any business that wants to make an offer, as opposed to having staff and the city attorney go back and forth and figure out every different option, because that's
takes
not
up
the
a lot of
business
time.
we're in.
That's right. And I think that the individual or individuals that would be looking at item option 3, that would be interested in taking over that, would have a list of their own criteria that they would like to utilize to maximize their return
Sure.
as well in a situation like
If
this.
they're gonna expend $50,000-$60,000 or more getting the sign up, they certainly should have some say in, a lot of say in what's gonna
Sure.
happen with the sign.
They should have the say.
I'll say.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Even the color of the print, the message.
So,
So we want to move this with a direction for city staff to put together a
RFP,
RFP or a letter, or just
what,
to,
what would you recommend, Hugh?
I mean, I suppose it's either or, huh? It doesn't,
I think it's better practice to have a set of issues that you would want a proposer to identify and respond to.
Okay.
Then we can let's stack them next to one another
And-
and say, we like this one better than this for this reason at this level.
and to articulate what I think you said, the idea would be that the proposal would have a payment, a lease term, a percentage of use. The obvious things are maintenance, and any other limitations on, what signage could be put in. Is there anything besides those 5?
No, what we'd probably do is go back to the agreement that we had in the first place, and
Right.
go through that and say, these are
Right.
the issues that we need to address.
Right.
And take a look at them. Yeah.
Because I think the first agreement was, well addressed, just we got into arguments with successors. We didn't have any trouble with the original operator at all.
right,
Okay.
right. So maybe between Brian and you could come up with that list pretty easily. and then-
Based on the prior agreement.
Yeah. Those are, okay, great, thank you.
Well, I'll move that we select option 3, which is to lease the sign space to anyone who would update the sign for their business use, and direct the staff and including the city attorney to put together a list of the things that we're looking for in any offer to the city to provide that.
I'll second
to
that.
lease.
Excellent.
We got a motion and a second for option 3. Any more discussion?
Only question I get
Yes, Brian?
as a staff would be, do you want to see the RFP? You want it to be brought back for the council to approve it and then we send it out? Or are you just instructing us to create the RFP based on the old one and send it out or advertise it and,
I think taking a look at it would be.
I would say bring it back next meeting.
okay?
Unfortunately, we've waited 4 or 5 years, I guess another meeting.
But by the same token, we want to get it so that the fall
We
season.
want to do it right, we want to do it right.
All right, so
Expedite it.
we'll try and get it back here the next meeting.
Good.
Okay,
Thank
great,
you.
thank you.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 2B, consider a motion to award bid of Minicon Park Water Access Site Improvement Project and authorize the city, or the Park and Recreation Fund balance to pay for construction services, and alternate number 1. Brian, you got something on
Yeah,
that, or
Mr.
Tom?
President, City Council members, you're well aware that the state had contacted us about putting in a boat landing, or what they call a water access site at Minicon Park, because the current one is not adequate and was filling up with mud and people couldn't use it, and it just became a very burdensome type of water access site. And $250,000 was applied from the state to this particular project, and they said that's all you're going to get, is $250,000. We've spent approximately $25,000 of that just for the design and the plans and specs of the project, which leaves a balance of roughly $225,000. Based on that, we went out for bid. We received a low bid of $223,041.12. And that did not include professional construction services for monitoring the construction of the project, nor did it include approximately $42,000 for alternate one. And what alternate one exists as is you have a hard surface road going out to Minnicon. You'll take a left. You'll be on gravel. And then when you get down to the water access site, you'll be on asphalt again. So there's a section that would be gravel in between two hard surfaces. Doesn't make a whole lot of
Kind
sense,
of the parking
I guess.
area.
Yeah. And so we would utilize the $250,000, and we would have to come up with the additional funds because we can't get it from anywhere else. Not such a bad deal in the big scheme of things, because 25% of the project would be at our cost and 75% would be through the state Minnesota DNR. So even at that, our 25% leverage, 75% more funds. It'd been nice to have a 100% funded project, but it is what it is. The bids came in, and the contractors would be willing to do it for the low bid from MR Paving in an amount of $223,000. So the question then is, does the city want to do the additional alternate one and fund the balance of the project to completion? And I think that would be my recommendation at this point in time. It would be a full project, and it wouldn't look half done.
Mr. President, I understand that the Park and Recreation Commission discussed this in some detail, and I'd like to know what they talked about and what they were considering in their unanimous approval of going forward with the paving, the alternate one.
Tom?
Tom Schmitz, Park and Recreation Department. President Schmitz, counselors, Manager Gromitz has explained the project well. We've been planning and designing it for about a year with our consultants, and now it's time to award the project and decide if we'd like to fund that alternate of the upper parking lot. And the commission's unanimous discussion was, yes, to complete the project now. That element of our Minnesota River Parkway will be complete and long-lasting. And, there won't be a gravel stretch in the middle of the project.
And it's my understanding that, because I've been out there a lot, is that especially with the heavy rains we've been having, that gravel can really start to erode pretty
Yes,
fast.
yes,
right?
that's
Right,
correct.
So it'd be a maintenance issue if we don't put a hard service down.
Yes, and Minnesota Department of Natural Resources funding, along with United States Coast Guard funding, that's the $250,000. They are only going to fund the water access site, the lower parking lot and the boat ramp. They will not fund the upper portion of the park, picnic area of the park, the upper parking lot.
Any other questions?
And just, I guess, just for discussion purposes, the other option that is before the city council would be just to do the project we have money for. We'd have to kick in about $30,000 to see the project through to completion the way it is. But it would have that middle section that would be gravel, be higher maintenance. So,
Mr. President, I'll move that we select option B, get the project done right the first time.
Option A.
Option A.
Option A, excuse me.
Yep.
All right. The alternate number one. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Item 2C, Consider a motion to receive report on the provisions of legal services and the 3 options available to the city council. Mr. Grumman.
Mr. President, City Council members, I was asked to put together a report, basically looking at the existing legal services we have, look at outsourcing to another firm, or creating an in-house legal department for the city. I've tried to put together as much information that I could to assist you in making, that decision. What you have attached is a report from Nierengarten Hippert that reflects the legal services they provide to the city in a narrative form. Attachment number 2 is the Finance Department's cost breakdown of our expenses, what those services cost using the existing format. Then attachment number 3, I did a survey of 24 communities that were above population of New Ulm and 24 communities that were below. And of those, 4 communities use an in-house attorney, employee status. The remaining 45 communities use a contract outside firm. Highest level fees were in Bemidji, lowest were in Monticello. And quite honestly, after looking at and getting all the information, there is no consistent base system used for the provision of legal services. Many of these are, long-standing agreements that have evolved through time, and some legal services don't use retainers. Some do. Some, are just hourly. Some do not do labor law, and others do. It's just very complex. It's not like a police officer that's a uniform. That's a benchmark in every city. A police officer does the same thing in every city. Well, the city attorneys are not like that. They specialize in certain areas, and then some communities go out for services to other law firms. Of those with an in-house attorney, of those 4 communities that had in-house attorneys, their budget ranged from approximately $157,000 to $354,000. Attachment 4 is a section I just included just because they were larger retail regional trade centers, and at a certain point, like 50,000, maybe it's 35,000, population, it becomes more prevalent. I mean, my survey went up to 20,000, and you can see it's more prevalent to have an outside contractual attorney firm. But at some point, you do reach a point where it's probably more reasonable to have an in-house city attorney. And so attachment 4 is just reflective of those 4 or 5 communities that surround us in rural Minnesota that do have their own attorneys. So the issues and alternatives that you may want to consider is retain, or I should say the alternatives are to retain the existing firm of Nierengarten and Hippert, create and fill a city attorney in-house employee position, likely would require at least a half-time legal secretary of some sort, so it's not just the attorney. Send out receives RFPs and select a firm to provide legal services as city attorney. So those were the 3 directions that you had me look at. I tried to put together as much information that I could that would help assist you. You'll notice that when you have a $150,000 budget for legal services, the wage of the city attorney, was likely in that 90 to 110. Then you've got your telephone, you got your computer, you got your access to the law library, I'm assuming, in probably electronic format now, but and then you go up to $200,000 when you add a half-time staff person, with wages and benefits, and it adds up quite fast. The current contract with Nierengarten Hippert, if you take their total cost and were to divide it into 2,000 hours, you would end up their total cost of $190,000 and divide their city rate of $95 that they charge to us. you would average roughly 2,000 hours. That's just a thumbnail sketch. Without getting into the city attorney's, accounts and really narrowing it down to how many hours, this is about as close as I can get. But I also understand that the retainer covers innumerable hours that don't get charged out to a specific account. As you'll note in some of the information, you'll see that a law firm working for a city might have a $2,000 a month retainer, but their hourly rate is $150 an hour. Some firms have higher retainers, then their hourly rate is lower. So it all comes out in the wash in the end, I think. That mix of retainer and hourly rate. So, if you have any questions, I try to answer them based on the information we have, and obviously our city attorney is here. If you have any questions for Hugh.
I have just a couple of comments. One, I want to thank city, your work and the city staff's work in putting this together. This is obviously a lot of work. Somebody spent a lot of time making a lot of calls and a lot of emails, so I appreciate that. We're missing one city councilor tonight. This is I'm nervous about making any type of decisions, doing anything without all of us here to talk about this issue. But I took away from some of this that I was surprised. I thought there was more in-house attorneys than there were on this. That was my takeaway from it. I was just like, wow, I thought it was more like 50-50. But so I appreciate all the information. There is so much information here that I would like some more time to look at this and talk about it before we go any different direction. But that's just my opinion.
I guess the only question I have on it is, I was looking through it, and maybe I don't understand it, but the breakdown, unless the public utilities didn't use any expenses throughout the year? Or is
It's all included.
it is, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's all,
Most of it is city, or 99% of it.
yeah.
Where did I see that broke down? I saw it broke down, I think, at the last page, wasn't it?
No, there's a whole big breakdown.
Well, if you
all
look at
bills, but-
if you look at the group, the grouping of, I think it was probably 2000, where did I see that? Maybe it was a prior year. But we had the wind generation was listed somewhere in here. I'm pretty sure it was. I'd have to look it up again just to
Yeah.
find out, but
Mhm.
it seemed to me that, or maybe it was a prior year I looked at and I just used these years. But the PUC's on here.
Okay, so the 190.
It's all included. It's all inclusive.
So the $190,000 is the magic number that we're
Yep.
paying out.
Yep.
I guess I would lean kind of with less. I'd like to have a full council when a decision is made one way or the other, whatever we do. But it's up to the rest of you guys.
Well, I was, just for additional conversation on the topic, I guess, my recommendation was to receive it and order it filed because I anticipated that this is a lot of information and you
It's
may
a
have
lot.
questions. And as we proceed with the budget, that this would be interjected into the budgetary process, whichever decision you decide to
Correct,
go.
yeah.
And so as we work through September and putting the budget together, I was expecting the city council then to, have a discussion of this particular topic, not necessarily tonight, but before we finalize the budget. Because that, if you decide to go with an in-house attorney, that's going to generate
Something else.
a lot of work.
Yeah, of the options that, at least today, the 19th of August, I'm not in favor of an in-house attorney with the information that I received and looked at. I thought there'd be more of them, da-da-da-da-da-da. But it appears it's a low priority item. It's in city government level, be it PUC or like we have right here, the city. And I don't like that concept at all.
Well, Mr. President, if we're going to talk about, preferences, I think to address Counselor Schultz's point, he was surprised that so few people have, so few cities have an in-house attorney. It's because, an in-house attorney, you've got one person that you can rely on.
Yeah.
And that one person can get sick, and that one person takes vacation, and that one person has a lot of things to do. So it's a number of things happen. Number one,
Or
you
may have conflicts.
may have conflicts.
Or skill level, skill
right,
level. Don't forget
right,
about
right.
skill levels.
Number of things happen. Number one, you don't have the service that is provided, and you end up contracting for other work. And I think there is definitely a reason why there's so few cities that are our size that do not have a city attorney. I think what happens as you get larger is that you've got a city attorney and several assistant city
Assistant staff.
attorneys.
Sure.
So, and I mean, we don't have the volume of work to do that right now. We've got a situation where, at the present time, we've got 3 assistant city attorneys, along with a city attorney under the contract. Do we have 4? 4 assistants, 3 assistants, three assistants, one city
one
attorney
city and
and 3
3 assistants.
assistants.
You're right.
So we've got 4 people under this contract. So those are my thoughts. I don't see any reason to go to. I don't think an in-house attorney would be a benefit. And as long as we're stating our preferences, I think the institutional memory and the skill and the expertise that our current law firm, and I'm speaking of a firm, not just any one of the individuals, has a real value to it. So I'm not in favor of making a change. Those are my thoughts. But I agree that this is something that we should discuss with all 5 of us here. So with that in mind, I will move that we receive the report and order it filed.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to receive the report and order it filed. I guess I got a question until when.
Oh, I mean, it's just filed. We'll bring it up when we go through our budget.
Yeah.
Okay,
But don't we want,
wouldn't
we want to make, if we would make any decision, it doesn't sound like we're going to go that way, but if we would, we'd want to get moving on that.
I guess, be honest, I favor an RFP. We haven't done one since, according to the information here, 1977. That's a long time. I mean, we're looking at almost 40 years, and I think the least we can do is an RFP. I'm not saying I'll support an in-house attorney either right at this time, but I would definitely want to see an RFP. That's my opinion. So I don't believe in putting it on the table and just leaving it. I think we need to
So you want to bring it back
bring it back. for
at the
full
next
council.
meeting, or?
Well, then I think that it should be, but I don't, we've got three people who don't think that an in-house attorney makes sense. So.
Oh, I haven't said that yet. I said, I'm
Well,
leaning
I was
that
counting
direction,
1,
but
2, 3. You're the 4th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
Another
I'm not
five.
gonna say I'm not against it. I'm just saying I'm not leaning that way at the present time. I'm saying the least I wanna see is an RFP. So I'd like to see it come back next meeting or whatever, sometime in the near future,
Yeah.
or we can do it in a month from now. But once we get through first phase of the budget, I think we're gonna have on the next.
To what
agenda meeting.
extent would we take a look at RFPs? Somebody from International Falls, or, I mean, I think we should take a look. If you're going to go RFPing, you need to have some concrete criteria that would be, so that if there is something that Mr. Grammons would need in a moment like that, it would be possible to sit and meet with them. So you'd almost be taking a look at, i.e., local
Law firms.
influence of
We
that.
can do an RFP. We aren't required to take anybody.
Well, exactly.
So we can, if the RFP comes in and it's somebody from way up in Duluth or whatever, if we want to say, no, we're going to keep what we have that option. So, I just think, like I said, 1977, time is here.
That's why I was just saying, I think everybody should have a voice, and we're missing one, and I'd recommend we bring it back. And that way, if we're not going to do anything, then we know where we're going, and we know where the budget's at, and
Right.
so
We do have a motion and a second on the floor, though.
To have it filed,
To have it filed,
but that wouldn't preclude you from putting it back on the agenda,
right,
right?
Right.
You set the agenda,
right.
so I think you're okay.
Call the question.
Call the question.
All in favor? Say
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Talk to you tomorrow, Brian.
Okay.
Item 2D, consider for approval a petition from Eric Bodie on behalf of Bahalosity
These are mine.
Incorporate to rezone from B1 General Business District to property at 301 North German Street.
I'll offer the motion to,
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I think we sort of went over this a little bit
Last meeting,
last
uh-huh.
time. And the biggest question at planning and zoning was how to pronounce the business. So there, other than that, it was quite a substantial discussion, but no real opposition.
I know I butchered it, but he
So did
explained
we.
how to
So,
pronounce it.
Are we
I
gonna
still
approve the
butchered it.
motion on condition he changes the name, or?
No.
No?
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 2E, consider a resolution approving the application of Eric Bodie on behalf of Velocity Incorporated requesting a conditional use permit to allow apartment building to be located at the property zone B1 at 301 North German Street.
I'll offer the resolution, waive the reading.
Second.
We got a motion to offer the resolution, waive the reading. Any discussion?
My only question, I think it was maybe talked about at the meeting, is there really enough parking in that area for this?
It's, most of the parking is going to be basically on the first floor, and like a lot of condos that you see
Yep.
in the city, or like Garden Terrace, where, the bulk of the parking is underneath.
Did your committee talk about what parking would then be out on that main
Yes,
street?
yes, we did, and if you look at the picture, and my recollection is, I think, oh, good, here we go.
Dave will tell us.
Right,
Excuse me.
Yeah, that was my only concern, is the parking issue in that property.
Dave Schnobrick, Community Development Director, members of the council. Our current parking requirements for a multifamily building is 1.5 stalls per unit. In this particular case, the developer is hoping to have 2 stalls per unit, so they would exceed what our requirement is.
So all could be underground.
They all will be, no, they will not all be underground. There is a portion that will be within garages, and then there is a portion that is surface parking.
Surface but not street, or including street when you mean surface?
No street
parking.
parking
All right.
included in those totals.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
See,
Thank you.
parking is all back here.
Any more discussion?
Bing, bing,
Here?
bing, bing,
Or in
bing. Here,
Oh,
here,
there. Okay.
here.
Seeing none, Finance Director, please call the roll.
Counselor Rockvam?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Webster?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries. Item 2F, consider resolution approving the development agreement with the post-closing recommendation and access agreement with the Minnesota Strauss LLC for the property located at 103 through 123 South Minnesota Street.
I'll offer the resolution, waive the reading.
I'll second that. We've been waiting for this for a long time.
Long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got a motion and a second off the resolution, waive the reading. Any discussion? Jim?
Yes.
Well, I
Name and
just
address
wanted
for the record.
to share with you what you get after a
Yes.
year and $30,000. if you win a lot.
Yes, thank you.
There's still, I think Brian has some comments on the post-agreement, but we've made some great progress with the city, and I appreciate everybody's efforts. And we're moving along.
Good, great, hooray.
Any idea when you might want to scratch dirt and start building?
I'm sorry.
Anytime when you're going to, you have an idea when you want to scratch the dirt and start building?
Well, yesterday. But
Let's be serious, okay?
there's still some things that have to be ironed out before we get to that point. But we're probably looking at a spring start.
A spring start?
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're building in the winter like these other guys did last year. And I'm not real fond of that approach.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
Causes problems. Yeah.
And every year we wait, we got another 55-year-old person to move into the demographics.
Right? Especially with the Hearts Beat Back program doing so well. Those people are sticking with us, right?
Read about it tomorrow.
Right?
Okay.
Okay, we've had, staff and city attorney has met, at least over the phone today, with Mr. Kretsch and his attorneys on trying to work out some of the final language, and we're really, really close, and I think we can get there. One of the things I just want the city council, to understand, I think the kind of the complexity of taking contaminated site and going through this process, is that somebody's got to pay for the remediation of the contaminated site, okay? Mr. Kretsch is buying the lot from the city, and I think the city, is prepared to present a clean lot or an acceptable lot according to MPCA, okay? And we originally had some estimates early on of, because we didn't know what we were facing, of $50,000 to $1 million. I think we had received a much lower estimate, below the $50,000. But looking at the site is only so big. There's only 2 spots. There's only so much contamination, and it can only go so deep. The concept, I think, is that we're probably going to be, under 100,000. We're hoping under 50, but in that general area. How the city would pay for that actually kind of dovetails in with the start date that Mr. Kretsch has stated, and of next spring, is that we would like to create, there's an official term for it, I'll call a remediation tax increment financing district. And what that does is, so there'd be 2 TIF districts on that site. You've got your base value, and then you have the increment for building the apartment. That's what Mr. Kretsch is trying to attach through the TIF agreement and the development agreement. The base value in contaminated locations like this, we can, basically get a remedial TIF district in place, and we can capture those funds to help clean the lot up, so it can be utilized in a good manner. And so what we're proposing, it takes about 60 days for that remedial tax increment finance district to be created. There's some timelines that Mr. Kretsch has to, go through with his side of the project. And that's what gives us a spring date, which is good for us, because it gives us time to get the remedial TIF injected into the system. And we anticipate that over the life of the TIF district that we could acquire approximately $75,000 worth of revenue. Okay? So that eats up a big chunk if we're talking $50,000. Now understand that the city would have to pay for the cleanup, and then we would get paid back a little bit each year. Okay? So it's a loan, basically. We're doing the work, paying for it, and then we'll get paid back. We also have a 7% administration fee in the TIF district, of which we can utilize those funds to help pay that off. And over the 25 years, we could collect $150,000. Some would go to administration, but the remaining balance would go towards this cleanup activity to pay ourselves back again. So, at this point, the first 2 steps that I've just identified as funding sources for this remedial work, we're talking $225,000 over 25 years, and we're not expecting it to cost that much. Okay, we're still waiting on the numbers. Mr. Kretsch is working on an update of what the remedial cost might be, and we're looking forward to that number because, I'm hoping it's $50,000 or in that area.
When are we going to hear that number? Any idea?
We were thinking it was going to be the next couple days, but maybe by the end of the week we'll have that number.
Good. So,
the third category that we could access funds is from the petroleum fund. That's where they have gas leaks and spills, chemical fund from the MPCA. The fourth one is the Brownfields Fund, which is done through Department of Employment and Economic Development. The fifth level of funds, if we had to get that far, is we are receiving $125,000 in revenue from the sale of the lot. The sixth level is if we still can't pay for this remedial effort, we technically could tap into the main TIF account, okay? And the seventh level is the general fund. Okay, so as I see it, the first two levels, the remedial TIF and the 7% administration fee, should be adequate to cover the remedial expenses on this particular site. I don't envision that the number that we're going to get is going to be $1 million. I just don't see that. If it is, we won't sell the lot.
I was going to say, I don't sell a lot.
And the project won't happen.
Yeah.
Okay? But if we're in that $50-some thousand area, I feel comfortable with the money that we have that we can attach to, not even counting the brownfields or the MPCA funds.
Yeah.
So at this point in time, I want to make sure that the city council is aware that there's going to be a cost.
Will you be bringing that back to us then? Or just let it,
Sure,
for informational
sure.
purposes?
We'll be bringing that back because we'll have a better idea, but we won't know the exact number because this is a project where you start the construction and the remediation at the same time. So as they're digging footings and stuff like that, we're taking contaminated soil and either removing it from the site or putting it on site somewhere where it's not going to be a problem. So we won't know the total. We'll have an estimate, but we won't know the total till the project is done. Okay? So that's one of those catch-22s. You know,
Sure.
we have an idea, but we won't know exactly.
We
So-
we haven't done any borings down to see how deep it goes?
We've actually done some soil borings on that. They've done the testing, but
Uh-huh.
it's like everything else.
Yeah.
I've had projects where we've done borings 50 feet apart, and there was a real problem in the
Oh,
middle.
yeah.
I understand that.
So there's unknowns.
Yeah.
We won't know until we open it up what those unknowns are, and that's just the fact of life.
Those are the known unknowns.
So at this point in time, I'm trying to apprise the city council that there will be costs. We have funding sources that we can utilize to fund those costs, so I'm feeling comfortable. The second thing I'd ask for the city council is that the staff be and city attorney be allowed some flexibility in kind of working out the final words on the development agreement and post-closing remediation agreement. We still need some information, but generally it's going to be in this format, and you know the hierarchy of financing for the remedial aspect of it, and it's just putting that into words.
Okay.
I think you're fine.
Any more questions?
Sounds like it'll be a busy day tomorrow.
If not, I don't know, do we have a motion?
The resolu- yeah.
Yep. All right.
No more discussion? Finance Director, please call the roll.
Counselor Rockvam?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Webster?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries. Item 3A, consider a motion to receive a report from Gene Prookish, Brown County Auditor's Office regarding an error in the coding of personal property to the City of New Ulm tax roll instead of Milford Township tax roll.
I'll offer the motion, receive the report and authorize payment of the $111,192.46.
I'll second that.
We got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I certainly would like to know more information
Right.
on this.
I think we need to hear this.
Dean?
Jean Prochnick, Brown County Auditor Treasurer's Office. Yeah, it's kind of one of those things that we really strive hard to not make errors in taxation, obviously. Personal property is a unique form of taxation, and sometimes misinterpretations will happen. We can do a lot of testing on real estate parcels to see that we're taxing in the correct taxing district, using our GIS and the mappings and seeing where things are and if we've messed up. Personal property, it doesn't appear on a GIS system, obviously, and we have not in the past ever really had any problems, and now we found this one. What happened was when this when NSP put in their, what is it, a transmission area or something, it was stated it was put in, for New Ulm and this and that. And so the interpretation was it was a New Ulm project. Nobody asked where it was because it doesn't tie to a parcel necessarily within our system. It's a created parcel. And so the taxation district was assigned to City of New Ulm, Taxing District 101, as opposed to Milford Township 1901. And so obviously, when we found the error by looking, first of all, at doing a split on one of the parcels that the city rents out. Those also are they're not taxable as real estate because the city owns them, but they're taxable as personal property because they're leased lands. And we were doing a split on one of those properties, and when we did the split, it didn't balance because we were using the right rates, but those weren't the same rates that we were using on taxation. With finding that individual error, we went through all our personal property parcels and found this really large one. And that obviously was not something we were excited about. We have introduced, obviously, some changes in our methodologies and how we will be looking at parcels. We did do a complete examination of our personal property parcels to ensure that they all are in the right taxing district. And the ones that were affected are listed on your sheets. The plan was to adjust the distribution that would come to the city in November, and we then would increase the amount that Milford Township would get, the difference then going to the landowners respectively based on what was listed on the sheets, so that they got taxed appropriately. And we did this based on a statute, 278.14, which is refunds of mistakenly billed taxes. It allows us, it requires us to make the adjustments. We have to go back the current year and 2 years if they are applicable. The only one that went back 2 years was the NSP parcel, which was the big one, unfortunately. The other statute that, I might mention to you is that there is statute 275.48, which allows a city or a taxing district to reassess or to recoup that if they were in levy limits or above your normal levy. So on behalf of the county, we certainly apologize for the error. We hope it never happens again. I know that in my tenure, I've never dealt with this, and I've been there a long time. And I had to call for help from some of the bigger counties to see how they've handled a situation like that. It seems like they're fairly common. I was glad that we didn't have that to share with you, that this is something that we'd come in every year with. It's just not. So we appreciate your understanding, and know that we're moving forward and trying to do things that are positive.
So Jane, you said you've double-checked all this, so I'm just concerned that we don't get another bill in another year from now where there's been another mistake. You've double-checked everything now, and this was the errors, and there is no more.
There is no more.
Okay.
We assure you of that.
Okay.
As of today, if we create a new parcel, but again, as I've stated, we've put some new methods in place to check those parcels. We want to be sure. We've always wanted to be sure.
Sure.
It's just one of those things that slip through the cracks. We apologize.
Thank you. Any more questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 3B, consider resolution setting an interest rate of 3.6% on the special assessments levied for the project financed by the General Obligation Permanent Improvement Revolving Fund Bond Series 2014.
I'll offer the motion.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to offer the resolution, waive the reading. Any more discussion? Not? Finance Director, please call the roll.
Counselor Rockvam?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Webster?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries. Item 3C, consider a resolution accepting donations offered to the City Park and Rec Department.
I'll offer the resolution, waive the reading.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to offer the resolution, waive the reading.
Just always so wonderful to receive these donations, and apparently the dog part went over the edge with
The mayor will send thank yous.
absolutely.
As the council president said, tomorrow will be a busy day.
Tomorrow will be a busy day.
All right, any more discussion? Seeing none, Finance Director, please call the roll.
Counselor Rockvam?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Webster?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries. Item 3D, consider a request from Herman Monument Society for Herman Fest 2014.
Well, this is going to be a lot of fun. Do we need to do 4?
Can we incorporate all of them into a
Well, one's a
Oh,
resolution.
you could do 1, 2, and 3 by regular motion, and
All
4
right.
is a resolution,
resolution?
so.
Okay.
Well, I'll move that we authorize the use of the parks and authorize fireworks and authorize the fire department to be on standby.
I'll second it.
We got a motion and a second for 1, 2, and 3. Any discussion?
I had a question on the, Tom's here, maybe he'll
Hey.
answer it.
Has he anticipated your question?
Not yet. I
Yeah.
don't know if you had any.
Tom Firth, a.k.a. Karnak the Great.
The answer is,
I certainly strongly support this, and it was really went over well last year, and it was a very
You
good
bet.
family event, and so I thought it was just phenomenal the way the fireworks went off around Herman and all that stuff. But I looked at somewhere and I read in here that instead of the 35-minute fireworks, it was down to a 15-minute fireworks. Is that going to be, we authorized $15,000 for fireworks.
Right. It was never 30 or 35 minutes. You talking the length of the show?
Maybe, yeah.
No. No, it was 15 or 20 minutes
Really?
tops,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it just seemed like, because it
it
was so phenomenal.
was
I
so
don't
much
know.
fun. It
Yeah.
just seemed the time stood still.
Okay, so
Time
it's
stood
going to be
still.
about a 15-minute fireworks.
I think it's a little more than 15.
Okay. And that the cost is still the 15,000 for the
Correct.
fireworks, and I thought we were getting a better deal because it wasn't 4th of July, and maybe we are. Maybe
Still are.
it is the good deal.
I think the reason that we're getting a better deal is because our site sits up on a hill, and they're able to spread the money into the quantity of effects versus the size of the effects.
Okay.
When you go to most shows, they use 4 5-inch shells that go, 400 or 500 feet in the air. We don't need that at this site, and so they're able to, and those are very expensive, and so they're able to spend the money on more effects. So that's the only deal I know of.
Okay. That's the only question I had on that.
Anybody else? Do you have anything? No?
With regards to item number 4, closing off garden.
Oh, we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get
That's
that.
what I
One
thought,
second. Okay, no more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carried.
I'll offer the resolution, waive the reading to authorize the temporary closing of center between Garden and Highland from approximately 7:45 to 8:30 on
I'll
the day
second
in
that.
question.
Okay, we've got a motion second. Any discussion?
With respects to that 7:45 to 8:30, that was anticipating like an 8 o'clock start. But Irv Hammond from RES told me we fired him at 8:30 last year.
Oh,
And so we're going to do that again this year. We don't want to go when it's still light out at all. So I'd like to change that from 7:45 to 8:30 to 8:15 to 9 o'clock.
I'll consider that. That's my motion, 8:15 to 9 o'clock.
It's my second as well.
Good job.
No more discussion?
Good luck again.
Oh, it's been fun.
Only
Right.
question I have is that change done at the county too? The hour change?
I haven't been in contact with the county. It will be, yes.
Okay. I just want the two things to jive.
Yep,
I don't want the county closing it for this time period and then we close it for another.
sure.
So they need to coincide.
All right. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Good luck. Finance Director, please call the roll.
8:15 to 9.
Okay. Counselor Rockvam?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Webster?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries. Item 3E, consider a motion to enter into a cooperative effort with the New Ulm Baseball Association to create a master plan for Johnson Park.
I'll offer the motion.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Did we want to hear about this? I think we should know what's happening at the beautiful Johnson Park.
Tom Schmitz, Park and Recreation Department, President Schmitz, city councilors. We have a need for some renovation down at Johnson Park. As you know, we've had restroom funds and accessibility funds in the budget for a couple of years, and we are continuing to work with the main user of the park, the New Ulm Baseball Association, to now look at it in a more comprehensive manner. And so instead of pushing some construction forward this year, we're planning to review the entire site through a master planning process, and then moving into the restrooms and accessibility as the first element of construction after the master plan is complete.
And what's your timetable on that?
The master plan is something we would be working on over the next 12 months
12 months?
or less.
That'll go through Park and Rec and then back to us.
Yes.
Okay.
Because we'd want that to be implemented next summer, wouldn't we? The actual physical part of it?
If that's possible, Councilor Rockvam, yes, that's what we'll be doing.
Okay.
The first step will be to create the RFP and then review those when they come back in from consultants.
Great.
I think from a ADA compliance standard, once we've recognized it and we put projects into a timeline for completion, that's the discretion aspect of the city council, when and how much you do at a particular point in time. This is particularly, I think, problematic because it's been out of compliance for so long that we were hoping 3 years ago to have this project done. And so I'd be on the side of Councilor Rockvam that the first project up is the ADA compliance, and hopefully we can do that this next summer.
Okay. Anything else?
To pass this, do you need to know Johnson's first name?
Frederick.
Good job.
Sounds
No more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 3F, first reading of ordinance number 14-120, fourth series, amending section 8.29 of the city code of the city of New Ulm relative to keeping animals in said city. Mr. Niergarten.
Mr. President, this is ordinance number 14-120, fourth series, City of New Ulm, Brown County, Minnesota, an ordinance amending section 8.29 of the city code of the city of New Ulm relative to keeping animals. Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of New Ulm, Section 1, that Section 8.29, Subdivision 2 of the City Code of the City of New Ulm is hereby amended to add the following. J, chickens, provided that the owner holds a valid permit from the city to keep chickens and complies with the provisions of this section. Section 2, that Section 8.29 of the City Code of the City of New Ulm is hereby amended to add the following. Subdivision 7, chickens. Chickens are allowed on any lot with a single-family residence that is issued a permit to do so by the city. A, generally. No roosters are permitted. All chickens must be hens. If a permit holder inadvertently keeps a rooster, then that rooster must be removed within 24 hours of the date of discovery. 2, chicken food is to be kept in containers designed to eliminate access by rodents and other pests. 3, a run or exercise yard conforming with this section is required. Section 4, chickens must not be kept in such a manner as to constitute a nuisance to the occupants of adjacent property. 5, dead chickens must be disposed of according to the applicable law and must be removed within 24 hours. 6, chicken manure is to be contained in a weather and pest-proof container and removed weekly or composted or used as fertilizer. Chicken manure must not be allowed to accumulate in such a way as to cause an unsanitary condition or odors detectable on any other other property. 7, chickens kept under this subdivision may not be slaughtered within the city. 8, no more than 4 chickens may be kept at any one property at any time. 9, chickens must be confined inside a coop or a fence and run at all times, and no one may allow chickens to range freely. B, chicken permits. A permit issued by the city and approved by the city council is required to keep chickens. 2, the application for a permit fee shall be set by the city council. 3, a permit lasts for 2 years from the date of issuance, at which time a new permit must be applied for. 4, the application must specify the number of chickens anticipated. 5, a permit may allow between 1 and 4 chickens. 6, only 1 permit per property. If a person wishes to keep chickens at multiple properties, then that person must obtain a different permit for each property. 7, a permit may only be issued if all the owners of all adjoining properties, approve of the application by signing the application form. Adjoining property means all properties adjacent to the property that the applicant is applying for a permit to keep chickens on. Adjoining properties include a property directly across an alley. A property across the street is not considered an adjoining property for this purpose. If an adjoining property is occupied by a tenant of a real property, of rental property, then both the tenant and the owner must approve and sign. If there are multiple rental units in an adjoining property, such as an apartment building, then every tenant, in addition to the registered owner, must sign and approve. If an adjoining property is owned by a business or other entity, then the application must be approved and signed by an individual with authority to bind the business/entity. If adjoining property is owned by the state or the city or other governmental entity, then the application must be approved and signed by an individual with authority to bind the governmental entity. 8, if the applicant is living in a rental property, then the registered property owner must also sign and approve the application. 9, permits are non-transferable and do not run with the property. 10, a permit constitutes a limited license granted to the chicken keeper by the city and in no way creates a vested zoning right. 11, site plans and coop designs are to be included with a permit application. Coop designs must meet basic humane needs of chickens, including heat, cooling, food, water, and protection from the elements. C, by accepting the permit, the applicant is authorizing the city to inspect the chickens and facility during normal city hall work hours. Law enforcement is exempt from this normal work hours limitation. D, coop, a separate coop is required to house chickens. The coop may not be attached to or inside any other structure, such as a home or a garage. Only one coop is permitted per property. The coop must be fully enclosed. Coops must be constructed and maintained to meet the following minimum standards. 2, the maximum height shall not exceed 6 feet. 3, the maximum total square area of the coop and run shall not exceed 72 square feet. 4, coop size shall not exceed 16 square feet, 4 square feet per chicken. 5, the exterior run size shall not exceed 56 square feet, 10 square feet per chicken. The coop must be at least 24 inches off the ground, or in the alternative, the coop must be placed on a concrete pad. 7, coops shall have sufficiently sized windows to permit natural light inside. Windows must be able to open for ventilation. 8, the run must be fenced in on all sides and include a roof. 9, the coop must have sufficient ventilation and insulation. 10, the coop must be constructed in a workmanlike manner and with durable materials. 11, the coop and run must be located in the backyard of the property. 12, the coop must be well drained of moisture. 13, the coop must be rodent and predator proof, and any doors or access point to the coop shall be able to be locked or otherwise secured. 14, coops must be constructed to comply with setbacks established in the R1 and R2 zones. If a permit is issued for property located in a zoning district other than R1 or R2, then the permit holder must comply with the setbacks as if that property was located in an R1 or R2 district. 15, in addition to complying with all the other applicable setbacks, coops must be at least 25 feet away from the applicant's residence and any neighbor's residence. E, violations. Any person who commits, causes, permits, or allows a violation of the provisions of this section shall be guilty of a petty misdemeanor punishable by a $25 fine. Each day during which a condition exists which is in violation of this section shall be deemed to be a separate offense. 2, if a permit holder has 2 convictions under this subdivision within any 2-year permit period, then that permit shall be revoked. Upon revocation, all chickens must be removed from the property within 48 hours. Section 3, that this ordinance shall take effect and shall be enforced 30 days from and after its adoption, approval, and publication. Section 4, that this ordinance shall expire 2 years from the date it takes effect and shall require a separate ordinance to extend or continue the provisions of this ordinance. And the usual form of signature attestation and approval follows.
Thank you.
I had a couple questions on this for
so do I.
clarification. B7, I know in our committee meetings, we talked about adjoining property. So there's maybe kind of a contradiction here, or maybe I'm just not understanding the terminology. In our meetings, we talked about joining property across the alley, including all property owners.
Right.
And it kind of says that in the one sentence, but then in the third sentence, it says adjoining property includes property directly across from an alley. Now, maybe your definition of that is all properties are directly across from the alley. I don't
Because it
care,
looked like
but-
it was 5, unless you had a corner piece. The 2 on either side, and then the 3 across the alley. One right behind one on either side.
Directly across the alley.
I'm okay with that, but that's not what our committee did.
That's not what our committee recommended.
Okay.
Well, and as long as we're discussing that particular provision, and I'm on line 4 of B7 here. Now, I understand, I live in a part of town where there are alleys, and I do understand that there are other sections of town that don't have alleys. And I also understand that the committee report treated streets and alleys differently. But I would prefer to treat streets and alleys the same. I think that asking an applicant to get permission from people across the alley is really quite a burden and an unnecessary burden.
No, I think we strongly felt that that was necessary.
You felt that, I didn't feel that.
That was my
You
understanding.
did?
No.
Yeah.
No, remember I think our discussion back then is you wanted permission even from the people across the street in the front, and we had discussion with that, and I really didn't like that. So we kind of compromised, okay, let's leave the permission from the people behind the alley, but not across the street. But
I guess I lean toward that, the 3 people across. Simple reason is you can take the chicken coop and you can put it back there in the corner of your alley or your property. And you got right
Yeah.
next across, so I think, you take anybody within maybe a 50-foot radius or something around or something.
that
And
was part of
so,
our discussion.
and so I would appreciate it, to that point, I would appreciate it because I am not always certain I remember these things. When we get to D 14, when it talks about coops must be constructed to comply with setbacks established in R1 and R2 zones, I'd appreciate it if the community development director could remind us what the setback from an alley would be.
5 feet.
All-knowing Dave.
Dave
All
Schnubber?
doing Dave.
Yeah. The setback from an alley is 5 feet.
Okay.
Now, with regards to that particular provision, though, I think there's something further to think about, and that is that in our R1 zone, our side yard setback is 10 feet. In our R2 zone, our side yard setback is 5 feet.
Mhm.
So which one are you picking?
Mhm.
It says,
Mhm.
R1 or R2. We also have single-family dwellings in different zoning districts that have different side yard setbacks.
Right.
So, referring to, saying R1 or R2, I think that leads to some confusion as to what is the setback that's going to be.
Okay.
Prefer the wording to be the setback of that zone, maybe?
Yeah, I
Would that
think
be
that
more
would,
clear?
that would be,
Okay.
Or would it, back to the original point, which is whether or not people who live across an alley need to agree. Could we, instead of saying the setback in R1 or R2, just say if there is an alley, there has to be a certain number of feet back, so that an alley is more like a street. I'm not asking the development director, I'm just throwing that up for discussion.
We need to have the people on the other side of the alley to agree to it. If they don't, then it's not going to happen.
Well, I don't agree with you on that
Well,
regard.
that's the reason we have more than one
yeah,
horse
Well-
in a race.
you know.
How many people even know their neighbors behind the alley and?
Well, here's a chance for them to meet him.
Yeah, true, or share some eggs.
Your
yeah.
neighbor night out, here's a
Share some
chance,
omelets.
Not that foul.
Well, I guess I'd like to, I guess we're not voting on it tonight.
No.
Just a reading.
And I would appreciate it if we could see some options the next time when we vote on that. And I have, and the question is whether or not all 3 people across the alley have to agree. Now, I've got a couple other questions. I'm getting to, I'll wait till.
You understand? Well, while Hugh is
Yeah.
talking,
Taking
or
notes.
writing, he's not talking, he's writing it down. I think one thing to address with Dave is, is that the way I would interpret the R1, R2, if you're in an R1, use R1 zone. If you're in an R2, use R2 zone. If you're in any other zone, since the R2 is, when you go into the higher zones, you get more flexibility.
Right.
So you would stick with the R2. So R1, you'd use R1. R2, you'd use R2. If it was B1, you'd use R2. If it was industrial, you would use R2.
Okay. Well, and like I said, the county, I think the city attorney is understanding.
That would just simplify everything and say you're going to use one or the other, but as you go up the chain of zones, you usually get more use of your lane.
Right.
There was one other item, if I could bring to
Okay,
the
sure.
council's
Good.
attention. There's B3 says a permit lasts for 2 years from the date of issuance. And then you
Right.
go to the, okay,
Right,
the
but
last page, and
it
it says
only-
that the
it
ordinance
only-
expires in 2 years
Right.
from the date of issuance.
Right. So that's a confusing part. Thank you. And, thank you. I'll check that off. And then, as long as we're on B, I'd like a clarification on B1. A permit issued by the city and approved by the city council is required to keep chickens. And I guess I really had not considered the idea that the city council would have to pass on each permit. That if the applicant meets with the criteria, and we have a permit form that's been approved by the city council, I don't think an appearance in front of the
That
city
was never
council.
part of our discussion, having to
No.
bring that in front of the
Okay.
council.
Okay,
Good catch on that one.
and,
Do you need to address the fact that somebody might have a double lot? Now, how does that change as far as across the alley?
They would be the same owner then. They'd give themselves permission. You know what I mean? Or what?
They'd still have adjoining properties on either side, may have adjoining properties on either side, but then if the back alleys are single lots, then there would be 3 people back there, which would adjoin the property. So now you've got that little twist to throw in there too. Are you gonna address that, or are you just gonna leave that, hopefully that it's not gonna come up?
I'm sure our city attorney will figure that out.
Include it.
Probably there's probably all kinds of oddballs.
And we'll include it, yes.
The easiest solution there is to establish, as the president suggested, a distance. If you have a distance, then we don't have any argument, whether it's
I
on
think it's a
one
lot
side of the alley or
easier.
the other side of the alley, or adjoining lot or not an adjoining lot. If you're within so many feet of a lot where a chicken coop is going to be kept, you got to.
I think that makes sense. Yeah.
I do too.
Then we know how to respond to that.
That'd probably make it more sense.
And
just
if
to-
50 feet is the number, then you're going to pick up the 3 across the lot, across the alley, people on either side of you.
one other thing here,
I'd recommend
Is that it?
Yeah.
I'll wait till the city attorney's done.
Have you found it?
I'm just waiting till.
I'm fine, I'm fine.
He's fine, yeah.
Now, I'm looking at B11. And perhaps it's clear, and I'm just overthinking this, but it says, "Site plans and coop designs are to be included with the permit application." Now, I think it should be clear that as the applicants go around and ask permission from whomever they have to ask permission of, that the coop design and the site plan be part of what is shown to the people who are being asked to
Makes
give
sense.
permission. And maybe that's intended, that's just a little clearer. And one final thing, forgive me for this.
Just on that, the coop design, I think, was for the humane treatment of the
Treatment,
animal. We want to make sure it's the right size and all
Sure.
the other. The actual site plan, I think, would be more important for the
Oh,
neighbors
right,
to
of
know.
course, of course.
So from a regulatory perspective, we need both as a city, but from the neighbor perspective,
We
they just
need
want to
the
know
site.
where it's going to be.
And you've just given me my opening to my next problem with the language of this brand-new residence, which is D15 refers to neighbor's residence. Whereas that particular term is not used anywhere else. We're referring to adjoining property owners and that sort of thing. And neighbor, neighbor could be, could be confusing,
I think the key there was the 25 feet away.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
It can't be too many neighbors
Right,
within
that's
25
right.
feet.
That's right, but like I said,
Boy, it'd be-
I was going down the nitpicking
Yep,
scale the further we
And on a
went.
single lot, it wouldn't leave you much time, much room. To be 25, if it's a 50-foot lot from Grid New Ulm,
Yeah.
it wouldn't leave you much room to have a chicken coop.
Not much.
So
I had,
I'm wondering if 25 is,
Yeah, it'd have to be a real thin chicken coop if it
Yeah.
was 25 feet
Right.
from.
I had one last one on E. Our committee, I don't think, had any discussions about, I know we said if people had one violation, they would be given a warning. The second violation, they would lose their license. But I read here a whole different setup, and I don't know if that's because we have to prove the violation, but I don't know if city staff say you're in violation because you didn't do X, you have
That
one
might
more
be a due
violation, you're
process.
done.
I think that's a due process issue.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, if it's a due process issue and we need to go that route.
Or you got two options. Either you go that route or you start holding chicken hearings and you make the decision as some sort of judicial panel. It just seems easier.
Everybody
that-
has a right to due
Right.
process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it seems either
Process
if we
issue.
charge somebody with violations and they get two of them through the court system, that is then the tripwire.
Okay.
rather than
I
having
figured
to
there
bring it
might-
back to the council.
figured that might
for
be the reason
permit
why, but-
revocation.
Thank you.
Okay, then I'm fine with it.
The other issue, I guess, that crossed my mind, and I can't even find it right now, was if a property owner has more than one location, they have to come back for an additional permit, and I'm okay with that. It's just that I'm kind of tying this into a discussion I had with a resident about his street assessment. Two neighbors across the street, one had 4 lots, and the other had 4 lots. One consolidated his 4 lots into one tax ID number, the other did not.
Right.
So by allowing this, are we allowing 4 chickens on all 4 lots? Because they're all separate tax ID numbers, so this person could have
16,
16 chickens in
I
4
thought I
different
read something about a
coops
maximum somewhere in here.
4.
per lot.
per lot.
I don't know if I read that. Did I read that? In
It's
per
under,
lot?
it's A8.
7A8, 7A8 talks about no more
Any
than 4
one
chickens.
property at any one time.
At 99 cents a dozen, I don't think you're gonna have too many of those.
No.
Well, I'm just trying to,
Yeah.
I just remember the discussion I had with
Sure.
that special assessment. And the reason it was interesting for the special assessment, the 4-lot person got 4 special assessments.
Right,
The
the
one
one
big
lot
lot person got 1 special assessment. And so when you turn this to the chicken issue,
The 4-lot person
4-lot
gets
person can
16
have 16
chickens.
chickens. So,
But
so
they have to be in separate coops.
but they have to
I'm
be
in separate coops,
4
right,
in each coop.
exactly.
I think some simple wording changed by our city attorney. can
30,
fix that.
will remedy that.
Yeah, good point.
And-
Good catch.
Well,
And
then
just-
I have a question on A6. Chicken manure must not be allowed to accumulate in such a way as to cause an unsanitary condition or odors detectable on another property. If you are to use it as composting or as fertilizer, when put down as fertilizer, I mean, it could be obnoxious the day it is put down. I
Well,
mean,
but as a person who's used that kind of fertilizer, I think that you can either compost or use it as fertilizer by incorporating it into the soils rather than just dumping it on the top. And by doing that, you avoid the problems of fumes. That's been my experience anyway.
But if you're saving and you have to, like weekly get rid of it, oh gosh, I'm not gonna run out to the, we'll just use it as fertilizer.
Right, and if you use it as fertilizer and you dig it into the
Well,
soil,
it'll be much easier just to apply it surfacely.
it would be easier.
Uh-huh.
That's why people compost. 'Cause it is- That's why a lot of people don't compost, because it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Okay. I'm thinking of all of the, so you're gonna have odor, you're gonna have fecal that's on top of the ground, which somebody could run across, or their dog could run up, pick it up and carry it into the house. You've got kids in the neighborhood. Lots of possibility. And what diseases that chicken fecal might have, I'm not sure I know, because I don't. But what are those possibilities? I mean, with just spreading it, I have a concern, a health concern. Anyway,
Would the solution of this be just to say, or use as fertilizer incorporated into the ground, not surface applied? I mean,
Just a couple words.
and hope that they abide by that.
well,
The other saving grace you got here is you got a 2-year termination or expiration provision. So it's going to have to come back before you and get
If
tweaked
it's
somewhere
abused,
along the line.
Sure.
And just one, I know we're getting it along, but, you know, if indeed we're going to be looking at the city attorney's suggestion of 50 feet as opposed to, you know, something else, I would appreciate it if we could have some examples of site plans that would comply with this 50 feet, so that we know that it is possible to do that, so that we're not, you know, setting up a set of rules and regulations that are impossible to comply with. You know, because we've got minimum standards for the size of the coop, and if we're, you know, if you can't get that little box into a typical old grid 50 by 150 lot, then I think we're just being disingenuous.
there are other situations, I think, that
I don't know, disingenuous.
are just not going to work.
Yeah.
And the ones I'll point out will likely be the alley houses. We have 7 or so alley houses
Right.
that they access their lot from their house from the alley, because that's where their house is located.
Good
Right.
point.
And so if you put the house up in front that wants chickens, and your neighbor's got the house on the alley, it does,
Yeah,
the potential there is for certain properties not to meet or even qualify.
criteria.
Certain.
Well, at
Certain,
50
but-
feet, a grid New Ulm 50-foot lot isn't going to work.
Well, and like I said, I'm not worried about those 7 people with the alley houses. I'm concerned with the people in my neighborhood who have a modest home and a 50 by 165 lot and want to raise children. Want their children to have the benefit of raising chickens. And I don't want to put together an ordinance that excludes all of Grid New Ulm from the possibility of having chickens, especially since it's old Grid New Ulm comprising Goosetown that historically raised chickens and raised geese and raised ducks. So I just don't think that's fair.
That was then when we were more of an agricultural community.
Well, then
We are
why-
now a residential community.
And people want to
So
go
let's
back
keep that in
to,
our
people
mind.
want to go back to those agricultural
Well,
values.
move in the country then.
People want to live in New Ulm.
Yeah, well then, abide by it.
So with that,
You had
Is that
that,
enough?
you?
We'll take another crack at it.
Okay, good, thank you.
Any more discussion? Okay. Seeing none. All in favor, say aye. Oh,
no,
that's
no,
that's a
no,
reading.
wait,
We
wait.
have
There is
to
reading,
announce
it's
it.
just a reading, yeah.
All right, that's easy then.
That was
We'll go to
easy.
3G. Consider a motion approving the final assessment rolls for the 2013 surface restructuring project and set a date for a public hearing for Tuesday, September 16, 2014 at 5 PM.
So moved.
second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. With no more business to be concluded, Meeting adjourned.